Welcome back everyone, Zanev Tech here. Today we'll be doing a review of the Logitech Circle View camera. I've had this camera for about a year and it's been out for a couple of years, but currently it's still being sold because there's not that much competition in the HomeKit space regarding cameras. And I decided to make this video because there are some good things about this camera and there's also some drawbacks that I'll be going over and some workarounds that I have found. So if you're looking for your first HomeKit camera, or maybe you're trying to add to your existing ecosystem that you've built with HomeKit, then definitely check out the Logitech Circle View camera because it is a great addition and I do like it compared to some of the other existing HomeKit cameras because of specific features. But other than that, let's get right into the review and check this one out. Let's talk about the design of this camera. The camera is matte black and it has a really nice design to it. The stand is modern as well. So they did a really good job on making a camera that doesn't look like a camera. And that was one of the main reasons why I purchased this one compared to some of the competitors, because of the fact that it doesn't look bad on my wall and it can not stand out, so I can pretty much hide it around my other decor inside the home. So if you're looking for something that is minimalistic and modern, then this camera is probably the best one for HomeKit secure video compared to some of the other ones. But there are some drawbacks. So one of them being the outdoor-indoor rated cable. The problem with that is the camera is weather resistant. However, the cable that plugs into the power supply is not. So if you were to get the USB connection wet that connects into the power adapter, that would be an issue. So what they recommend is you fishing that cable through your walls, and then inside the house, you plug it into an actual outlet with the supplied power adapter. However, you can also plug it outside if you find a way to get one of those covered outdoor electrical outlets. That way you don't have to worry about water or moisture getting inside the USB part. So that is one additional thing you want to keep in mind if you're traditionally going to use this for outdoors and not for indoors. For indoors, you have no issues with the camera, but for outdoors, not a lot of people mention this. You should find a way first to see if you can get that cable inside or find a solution outside. The other thing I do want to mention is the cable that goes into the camera is secure, so it doesn't really come out from the back of the camera. The only part that separates is the USB from the power adapter. And the biggest drawback about the cable is the fact that it's white. So they could have made a darker colored cable and not have to worry about it standing out compared to the camera, because the body of the camera is black and you can pretty much hide it outside with your trim, or let's say if you have a darker brick, then you can always hide it. But with the white cable, you can't really hide it. So maybe they were thinking that you were gonna fish this cable indoors so you don't have to worry about the cable, but there's still gonna be a little piece of it showing at all times. So maybe if you're putting it outside, you might want to paint it to match your trim that is going around, or find a way to hide that exposed portion of the cable so you don't have to worry about people tampering with the cable when they know it supplies power to the camera. But other than that, the design is great. I do like how it looks. It has a nice little LED light on the top to let you know the different recording modes. So if it's red, it shows you that pretty much it's recording currently. If it's blue, then that means it's being streamed by someone in your home, or that it has a possibility to be streamed by someone in the home. So it depends on the settings that you've created for your recording options on this camera. And then if it's turned off, that means either the camera's off or no one can view a recording of it and there's no recording saved on the camera. So compared to traditional cameras where you have one light and it doesn't really tell you much besides the fact that the camera's on, this one actually changes with the modes. So I do give them that, and the wall mount that they have is great as well. It has two screws that you can put into your brick or maybe into your drywall, and then it just attaches on the wall or maybe in the ceiling. Because the mount is so flexible and you can move it around depending on the position of the camera, it really allows you to get that angle that you're looking for. Especially with the 180-degree lens, you have that great field of vision that the camera sees. So that is one of the biggest pluses about the design of the camera. And I really do like the fact that they thought of something that looks modern and it's coming from a company like Logitech. So I was definitely into getting this camera and testing it out in my ecosystem. The best functionality about this camera is the fact that it works natively in the Home app. So you don't have to worry about those additional apps. For example, you won't need a Logitech app for you to be able to control all the options on this camera. Sometimes they might have different cameras, for example, for Google Assistant and Amazon Alexa, where most of the features can be controlled from those apps. However, you need the manufacturer's app to deep dive into the settings of the camera. This is not the case. So if you're looking for something that's plug and play and you can just use everything in the Home app, then this is definitely the way to go for that. And that's something I was looking forward to when setting up my home ecosystem, because I wanted something that's easy to use, but then also easy to set up and manage. You don't want to have a complicated camera and then also figure out instructions and how to do different settings. This is an easy camera to set up and maintain in the long run. I pretty much scan a QR code to add it to my existing home, and it asks you for a room and then also the recording styles that you would like to have. For example, when someone's home, it records or doesn't record. When someone's away, it can also record or not record. You can set it up exactly how you want, and depending on the people that are home or not. So that is the greatest benefit of the camera. It gives you that flexibility to set it up. However, there is some drawbacks. So the biggest one being the microphones. The microphones are good, but they're not great. I mean, you can hear some echoing and some weird noises. It picks up a lot of noise, but you can still use it to have that two-way conversation with anyone in front of the camera. For example, if you're viewing it remotely from the Home app and you want to talk to someone that's at home, then you can talk directly to the camera, or maybe yell at a pet, or maybe, you know, what you want to do with the camera. It just depends on your choice, but you can talk through it with the Home app. The biggest downfall of the camera is the fact that it sometimes disconnects. So I couldn't figure this out. Like I mentioned, I've used this for a year, but the camera, depending on some circumstance, I can't tell you why, but it disconnects constantly from the Home app. So my Wi-Fi router is extremely close to the camera. It is a Wi-Fi 6 router. I know the camera doesn't support 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, but even though it supports 2.4, it's relatively close and my speeds are pretty quick. So that is not the issue, and I've reset the entire home just to test this out, and it still disconnects. So it does it randomly. It doesn't do it like a specific time or specific reason, but what I found is a workaround. My workaround is adding a smart plug that's also in your existing HomeKit home, and you can remotely turn the camera on and off. So traditionally before, I was actually going behind my refrigerator where my camera is plugged into, so I can unplug it from the wall, let it reset, and then plug it back in. But then I said, why don't I buy a cheap HomeKit, smart plug, and then set it up with my home? That way I can actually remotely turn it on and off when it gets stuck. Because when it's stuck, it doesn't do anything. So it won't just magically connect to your Wi-Fi again. It's just not going to connect and show that the camera is offline. So this is my solution of getting this workaround. Pretty much I have that smart plug. You can also set up an automation. So if you wanted to reset, let's say during the night for a minute, you can also do that, and you don't have to worry about the camera getting stuck, because if it reboots every day, then pretty much you save the hassle of having to manually do it yourself. So that is also an added benefit if you get a HomeKit plug, or you can get any other plug. You don't have to use everything in the HomeKit ecosystem, but if it's smart and you can remotely manage it, then this can definitely be a workaround for the camera. It's not an ideal solution. They should have sent out a firmware update for this, or maybe just contacted us and let us know why you may be doing this. But the fact that it does kind of go offline, it's kind of a bummer. It's not something you can depend on 24/7. It's not something I would depend on, It's not a professional camera. So do keep that in mind if you're looking for something that's always on, always live. That may not be the case at all times. And a lot of people started to mention this as time passed, that it starts to do that. In the beginning, it really didn't turn off by itself like that. But recently, it's been getting kind of worse and worse, depending on some circumstances that I can't tell you, which is strange, but I don't know what's wrong with the camera. But there's not that many alternatives out there, even from Apple or other manufacturers. So I'm just waiting to write this one out and use it for now with this solution. So if you have this camera, then definitely use my workaround if you think that will help you, or if you're thinking of buying it because there's no other options really, then you can also do my route with the smart plug. But I just wanted to point that out because not a lot of people mention that, and that's something you should know if you're purchasing this camera. So the Home app is the way to control the camera, and it gives you a bunch of functionality that it gives other devices as well. So the fact that it's an Apple app and you have Apple devices, you have that sync that goes on. So pretty much anyone in your home that's been added to the home can actually view this camera and change settings depending if you allow them with permissions. But the cool things about it is the way the camera works. So you can manage those recording styles depending on if you want to stream or record or neither. But then you also have the ability to set up zones. So these zones allow you to select different areas of what the camera sees and then notify you depending if that zone is triggered. So let's say your pet walks through, or there's something going around like a change of lighting, then it can also notify you for any of those circumstances. But the ability to have that is great, where you can set up specific zones. Let's say if you're using it outside instead of a doorbell camera, then you can take away the zone of where cars are passing by, so it doesn't really bother you. But if you don't set up zones, you also have the ability to select the type of motion you want to be notified for. So just like any other HomeKit camera, you have the ability to block out cars, animals, packages, or people. And you may select the ones that you want to use or none at all. So it just depends on what you decide. The fact that it actually recognizes packages as well, that's a great benefit. It doesn't really tell you when it's picked up, but it actually shows you when a package is delivered, so you have that peace of mind knowing it's there. But the other cool part about the integration with iCloud is the fact that you can connect it to your Photos library. So if you have people assigned in your Photos library with their names, then anytime the camera sees anyone from your photo library with that name, it will populate on your Apple TV or on a device telling you, hey, we saw Tom, for example, on your camera, or we saw Bob on your camera. It just depends on how you want to set it up, if you wanted to use that facial recognition. But the ability that it's there and that can notify you on a specific person is pretty great. So it doesn't just say a person's at the door, you know if it's a stranger or someone that you know personally. That's a great benefit, especially if you're using this, for example, if you have kids and you want to record outside and know exactly what's going on, and for your kid to feel safer when they're indoors. So that is a great benefit on the fact that the facial recognition syncs directly with your iPhone's photo library. I really like that feature, and that's something that I wanted to continue with having everything from the Apple ecosystem. So I do like that the most, and I think this is the best feature of this camera. But you also have other abilities as well. You can turn on the infrared and then also turn on night mode or the night vision. So the night vision is black and white. You don't have colored night vision. Their doorbell version of this camera does have colored night vision, which is pretty interesting because it actually shows people in color when it's dark outside. But for this one, you pretty much have the black and white traditional night vision. It's pretty good. It doesn't show it that far away. I think maybe it was around 15 feet, but that's about it. I really depend on this camera. But let's say you did place it outside in front of your door, then pretty much you would see people right in front of it, but maybe not on the street, depending on how far away your house is. So that is one drawback. The night vision isn't perfect, but the day quality is pretty great in my opinion. I do like the video footage of it. It is 1080p. They do kind of say that they have a nice lens on the camera, and that's why it looks that good. I mean, compared to other HomeKit cameras, I don't see that much of a difference. Like I said, the only difference I did notice was the fact that there is some cameras with color night vision, which is something you don't receive with the Logitech Circle View. But other than that, the camera is easy to set up, it has a great design, and pretty much you have that HomeKit functionality that you expect from a device in your ecosystem. But besides that drawback that I mentioned earlier, I can say that I do recommend this camera because of the fact that it's relatively cheap for $159 at the time of recording, but also the fact that there's not that much competition. Let's say if there was a better version of this, then possibly I would upgrade. But the fact that out of all of them, this one looks the best, and it's made from a nice company like Logitech, which I use for a lot of my different tech items. I do enjoy the fact that I can stay within the same manufacturer, but it might not be the case for you. You might just want to branch out and try a different one. That's good as well, but this is my review of the Logitech Circle View. If you like this video, then definitely give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions that I didn't mention in the video. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That way you never miss any of my other videos, and click on that notification bell so you get notified right away. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Zanev Tech is out.